Hi everyone! The other day I tried out Titan Quest 2 on my stream and I want to talk to you about it a little bit. This is a new upcoming RPG. This is going into early access later this year as far as I know. This is not a sponsored video, I just decided to try it and see what it is like. And I do have to say, I had a pretty good time. You can play the demo for free right now. You can go to Steam or the Epic Game Store, I think, and you can request access for the playtest. It is a very small demo. It's like the first zone and you get to like level 6 and find like one major boss and that's it. But you do get a bit of an idea of what the game looks and feels like. There's also like the mastery skill system, which is kind of cool. And overall, I think it's actually looking like a pretty promising title. Now, I'm not 100% sure what are the plans for this, like with the early access and what is the end game going to be like. I only saw like, one character basically, or two. I played through it twice actually, with like different setup. Of course, this is like a pretty early look. I've played the game before already at Gamescom last year, so this was like half a year ago. I actually met the devs there, or like the publishers, and I was able to try out another demo for like an hour or so, which was actually a different zone and like a pre-made character. And it seems like they are definitely moving forward with the game here. And well, judging from what I've seen now in this playtest, I think it looks pretty good. Like the graphics are decent. It's not like a PoE 2 level or the 4 level or so, but it's fine, I think. And controls are fine. I didn't really notice any like major bugs or any kind of problems like that. And overall, it looks like a relatively polished experience, at least the little picture that we see now. And that being said, I don't expect this to be a game that is going to be very similar to, like, for example, the seasonal games like the 4 and PoE and so on, where you kind of blast through the end game and then come back every few months or so. I'm not 100% sure if they're doing that, or if it's more like kind of like a story-based game with like some end game attached to it. For example, like Grim Dawn, I think it's more like that, where it's not like this cyclical play style basically, but instead you kind of just like play through it at your own pace. So this is kind of what I expect here. This definitely seems like relatively story focused. So you have like a bit of like Greek mythology and so on here, which is kind of cool, but I'm not sure exactly where this will go in the end. One thing that is pretty cool in this game though is like how you actually make your character. So here, for example, is pretty early in the game, you get like a choice of your mastery. Mastery is effectively like your class. So you start classless. So you just like load in there and you start somewhere on the rock and you start blasting basically. And then you can pick up different weapon types and they actually change, for example, your main attack. And then you can choose a mastery. So the way this works is you can choose 2 masteries and it's gonna be like a split class basically, with one thing on one side and one on the other side. So you can, for example, here combine Earth and Storm, or Storm and Warfare. And then there's going to be more. I heard there's going to be like a Rogue Mastery coming, and I suppose it's going to be like a bunch more later down the line, which means there's going to be a lot of different combos. That's also very similar to how Grim Dawn works, which is I think a game that the makers of Titan Quest originally also like made before this. So there's like some similarities there basically. And you can then combine like different archetypes together into the same character, which is pretty cool and opens up a lot of customization. So the skill trees look like this. You have the active skills on the left side and then the passive points on the right side. So you can invest like skill points into each of those skills. In fact, even in your basic attack, even in your dodge, you can invest points here. So like, for example, on space is my dodge. Here's like a barrier. So these are just abilities I had from the start. But even those you can rank up and then you can like add modifiers. So a little bit like, for example, how support gems work in PoE or something like that. You can then put like up to 5 different modifiers. They have varying effects, costs, and kind of scaling with how many ranks you can put into those. You can like put more points and have higher ranks of those modifiers, for example, and you can actually change stuff around quite a lot. So for example, some spells can be converted into other elements, or they can be converted into like a different pattern, or they can even be converted into an attack instead of a spell. So there's like some cool stuff like that, and I think it actually opens up a lot of really cool like experimentation you can do. But you don't really get very far in this demo, so I did not really make like crazy builds or something like that. And on the other hand, on the right side here of the passives, you can take those passives, and even those have modifiers as well that you can choose to like upgrade here. So you see this, when you have 6 points invested, for example, you get 1 slot. When you have 12 points invested, you get another slot. So you can kind of like rank up certain passes and then, you know, customize them to your liking even more. So far, I also like the item system from what I've seen. Now, I don't know exactly all the mechanics behind it, but it does look a little bit more like interesting than, you know, the base items in other games. So for example, armor pieces, they have different types of armor. So you see here, it's like a combined 4 armor, and 2 of it is pierce armor, 2 of it is strike armor. So there's like different types of attacks. For example, like piercing is like, for example, more like the, you know, pointy weapons or like bows and so on. And then strike is more like the heavy weapons. And you can actually like customize around that a little bit. So there seems to be like, you know, a bit more like a realistic approach in that regard. And you can also just try to build around, you know, these various base types. And then there's also like, of course, magic items, rare items, and so on. So for example, here's like a vendor that I found somewhere that I was able to like buy some item from or so. And you find some items as you go, and you can like experiment a little bit with that. One thing I liked about the demo as well was the kind of like high difficulty. Like, okay, I was like a complete noob in this game and so on, but even at the low levels, it's not like you just kind of like walk in and you just one-shot everything and nothing hurts you. So even like small packs of enemies can be quite threatening actually, if you don't like dodge the abilities, for example. I think that's kind of nice, so it kind of keeps the ability on your toes, and it's not just kind of like, you know, for example, in Diablo 4, where you just walk in and like everything just dies, you know, in the early levels and so on. So that's kind of cool. But I think there's like no difficulty setting, at least in the demo. I couldn't choose the difficulty, but it looks like there was a selector at least. Maybe down the line they're gonna add different settings. And here's also the attribute system. So this looks like this. When you level up, you don't just get the skill and the passive points, but you also get attributes. So you have like 4 attributes you can invest in, which is agility, vigor, might, and knowledge. And then depending on the combination of 2 of those, they produce like a third kind of extra stat that then determines, like, for example, the extra power you gain for certain effects. For example, cunning is poison and lightning damage, and then fitness is like physical damage and so on. And like each of those points also like adds some other benefits or allows you to wear certain equipment and so on. So it's like made with like some kind of like, again, realism in mind, I guess. And yeah, it kind of like builds towards like a certain like fantasy of a character that you're trying to create. Overall though, I gotta say, pretty cool demo from Titan Quest, so I'm quite excited to keep up with that and see what comes out of it. So just another ARPG, and even if this is not gonna be like a new main game or something like that for me or maybe other people, it does seem like something at least worth trying out when the time comes. So for now, that's what I got, and I think you can actually sign up for like a closed beta test down the line as well when you play this playtest. So you can go check it out. I'll link the Steam page, and then you can see it there. But so far, so good, I gotta say. If you have tried out the Titan Quest 2 demo, or maybe Titan Quest 1 back in the day or something like that, let me know what you think. But so far, I think this is actually looking kind of nice. So I'm gonna leave you with that here. Go check it out if you want. Otherwise, I'm gonna have a lot more stuff coming from Diablo 4 with the PTR, of course. I'm still testing a lot of things there. And we have last Epoch and new PoE stuff soon as well. So see you guys then. Hope you enjoyed this video. And see you guys next time.